Let the games begin. So the FBI and the Justice Department have now uncovered the fact that there are four separate extremist groups that bust themselves in to commit violence on the Capitol building. We also now know that before the president actually finished his speech at the rally on Wednesday the 6th last week, that these people were already storming the Capitol. And what's interesting also, as I reported to you yesterday, is that police reports have already showed that some of those individuals were Black Lives Matter. So we know that the Black Lives Matter extremist group was one of those four groups that came in to create mayhem and destruction on the Capitol. But let's talk about the Democrats and what they've done today. So as I begin my podcast with you, the vote's in. The vote was 232 to 197, with 10 Republicans voting with the Democrats. Now, when I look at that, I think to myself, why are 10 Republicans voting with the Democrats? It's because there hasn't been any leadership. There needed to be leadership by the Republican leadership in the House and the Senate to say, wait a minute. You're impeaching the president 1 week after the events of last week on a Wednesday? There's been no due process. There's been no deliberation. There was one article of impeachment. What was it? What is it? The article impeachment today that the vote's already been accomplished, that article of impeachment was incitement of insurrection. Well, according to the law, what does that mean? To incite insurrection. Well, we know that Kamala Harris incited sedition or insurrection. She even fundraised. She even went on Twitter and social media platforms and said, give to this nonprofit organization because we want to get all those people that are shooting police and burning down and destroying historical monuments, historical churches, public and private facilities, putting people out of business and out of work. We want to keep funding these people. So please, keep giving to this nonprofit. And I think the name of it is Blue Sky. I just talked about it yesterday. Anyway, at any rate, so you have Kamala Harris, you have Nancy Pelosi, you have Democrats that aren't being impeached. So I say, let the games begin. This president, has received no due process, no deliberations, but he stands impeached today. Yet we have evidence that Kamala Harris and Nancy Pelosi and Maxine Waters have incited people to violence, have encouraged, promoted, and celebrated violence on the streets of America. They did it all summer long, including up until September. And I think it's important. This is very important. That one of the things the Democrats have continued to criticize the Republicans on is the fact that the Republicans raised issue with the electors for the Electoral College. Well, guess what I learned today? The Democrat who coordinated the floor speeches today in order to initiate that impeachment against the president, his name is Representative Jim McGovern. He's a Democrat from Massachusetts. And he himself, back in 2017, did the same thing that Republicans did, and that's challenge or object to electors from Alabama. And he's not the only Democrat to do so. The lead manager of the impeachment proceedings today, Representative Jamie Raskin, a Democrat from Maryland, objected in 2017 to the counting of the Florida electors. Talk about a double standard. So Democrats back in 2017, and these two aren't the only ones, by the way, but I thought I wanted to mention them because one was responsible for coordinating the floor speech debates, and the other one is the lead manager for impeachment. So I thought it was interesting that these two that hate President Trump and are suggesting he incited violence by questioning the electoral vote and the electors from those swing states. But we've got Democrats back in 2017 doing the exact same thing and referring to President Donald J. Trump's election back in 2016 as illegitimate. That's all we've heard from the Democrats. The Democrats constantly say President Trump was an illegitimate president, and they lined up back in 2017 and did the same thing that they hate the Republicans for doing in 2021. It's a double standard. It's hypocrisy. And if you're going to impeach the president because he raised the issue, and he raised the issue of massive voter fraud, and then had a little meeting after they learned about the assault, the criminal assault, which I do not approve of violence at all. The fact that the Democrats got together and had a meeting and said, we're going to pin this on the president and call it incitement of insurrection and impeach this man. It's time, ladies and gentlemen, that all of us call our representative in Congress, call him today, call him tomorrow, call him every day, and say, you know what? You need to impeach Kamala Harris, the vice president-elect, on day one of the Biden-Harris administration, and you need to go after Pelosi, because Pelosi, she was cool. Remember that? She totally thought it was fine. The Black Lives Matter and Antifa were running through the streets of America, burning, looting, and committing murder. She was okay with that, and okay that historic monuments were being destroyed. And Maxine Waters and other Democrats were telling their supporters, get in the face of Republicans, intimidate them, persecute them, harass them, beat them up. I mean, this has been, remember Madonna said, she's thinking about blowing up the White House. Hello? I mean, but these leaders in the House of Representatives and in the Senate that encouraged all this violence, they need to be impeached. And I shared yesterday that based on the Constitution, not only can the president and the vice president be impeached, but Congress, those members in Congress, they need to have their Twitter account shut down. Black Lives Matter needs to have his Twitter account shut down. The Ayatollah Khomeini that wants to destroy the United States and has called for that needs to have his account shut down. I mean, we've got dictators all over the world that call for murder and mayhem and destruction of the United States. Their accounts need to be shut down. Let's just shut down Twitter. I heard before I came on the podcast today, Parler doesn't know that it'll ever be able to come back because, yes, I understood it correctly. It's been reiterated again today. The CEO and the people that run Parler, they're going to have to build an entire infrastructure of servers and other things to get Parler up and moving again. And the thing about it is they know they're going to be harassed and persecuted and God knows what. Maybe they're having trouble getting a loan from the bank, because remember that Twitter, Google, well, Apple, Google, and Amazon said about Parler, which is the competition for Twitter. Apple, Google, and Amazon accused Parler of being involved somehow in the violence that happened on the Capitol building. But we also know, guess what? We also know that that everyone that has been arrested so far that's been interviewed, none of them were active on Parler. So they lied to you. The Democrats, the people on the left, lied to you again. And they said, well, Parler was somehow involved. Parler wasn't involved at all. So, but Amazon pulled the servers, and Google and Apple wouldn't allow them to have their app up on their sites. This is harassment. This is the destruction of free speech. And this is the point I hope that you'll share with all your friends. I hope you'll share this show out and share this with all your friends. I'll tell you what the bigger threat is. It's not that violence and destruction of parts of the Capitol building. The representatives from the House and the senators were back in there within hours. I don't know if it was a few hours or 5 hours, but they were back in there within hours. The real threat, the bigger threat today, is the censorship by the left, by the Democrats, who do not want us to have the freedom to say what we think. They don't want diversity of thought. They've attacked President Trump for saying what he thinks and trying to drain the swamp. And he doesn't, and they do not want us to. Think about it. Let me give you an example. Think about AOC. Think about how she says that it's evil for Republicans not to want to raise taxes on corporate America. It's evil because we're hurting the poor people of America. Really? Really? So, and she wants to punish us. She feels like we should be punished for that thinking. Well, our thinking is, and I believe this completely, that President Trump was right to lower the corporate income tax rate from 35%, the highest in the industrialized world, to lower it down to something in about 20%. And I believe that because, as President Trump said, and as we saw last year and the year before, that when we lowered the corporate income tax, or the corporate tax on corporations, that they then went about coming back to America and hiring more Americans to work for them. Because the corporate tax rate was lowered, so they hired many more Americans to go to work, which brought us to near full employment. Lower taxes helps business. It helps small business. It helps big business. AOC says that people like you and I that don't support the idea that of the Green New Deal, we have to basically revert back to the cave age and stop boarding planes and driving cars and everything else. She wants us to embrace the Green New Deal because we're in imminent danger of the planet being destroyed. Well, if we disagree with that, and there are scientists who disagree with that, then what's to happen to us? Well, what happens to us already? Some of us are insulted, we're demoted, things happen to us at work, we lose our job, companies can't get a loan from a bank. Republicans, the big thing they're worried about right now is that some of their big donors are going to walk away from them because they supported the president. Those Republicans need to develop a backbone and say to those donors, what do you think the Democrats have done over the years? The Democrats since the 1800s have stood up in Congress and said they're going to question those electors from various states, and they're raising objections. This is something that's been going on since our nation's founding. So for Republicans to get upset about them, they might lose their donor base, you need to call them and tell them, excuse me? Why don't you remind them that those same Democrats that were leading the impeachment process today are the same Democrats that were raising objections to the electors in years past? Ladies and gentlemen, call your representative. What's the number? The number is, my producer's going to put it up on the screen. It is 202-224-3121, I believe, right? 3121 202-224-3121. This needs to be the game plan. The best offense, or the best, what is it? What is that expression? The best defense is a good offense. I hope I got that right. So, bottom line, the Republicans need to impeach these Democrats. Republicans, you need to go after them in the House and the Senate. Because the bigger threat right now, more than anything, is the right for us to express ourselves. And I think about my own personal story, which I've shared on my podcast before. As an educator, I made a statement in passing. It wasn't even a discussion point or a talking point during the classroom session. And I said something like Islamic terrorism is going to continue going forward in the 21st century. Just that Islamic terrorism will continue in the 21st century. And, I thought, I don't know if there was something in the news that day, but the bottom line is we have troops, we have special forces in about 70 different countries around the world fighting Islamic terrorism. So we have soldiers, American soldiers, risking life and limb to combat Islamic terrorism. It's a fact. It's not my opinion. It's a fact. And they went after me. I had a Muslim student in my class say it hurt her feelings, and I was called a racist. For what? Saying Islamic terrorism is going to continue in the 21st century? It's a fact. So there are Sunni nation states, Muslim Arab nation states that fight terrorism inside their own country, or fight Iranian terrorism inside their own country. It's just unbelievable. But I was attacked. I was persecuted over it. They called an attorney that wanted to question me about it. I was questioned about it. It was one sentence and one class, and I had hell to pay. Because there's censorship, because there's punishment for people on the right who are not afraid to say what apparently is politically incorrect in our cultural institutions, in our educational institutions, and in our political institutions, and it's wrong. Republican Party, fight back. Thank you for listening to The Denice Gary Show.
I want to tell you about a place I love to go, Frugatti's Italian Restaurant. Very few locations here provide seating outside in front of a fabulous water fountain with an atmosphere that is reminiscent to me of eating outdoors in Venice. This is real Italian food by real Italians. And what makes it even more so is owner Ralph Frugaletti, who nearly a quarter century ago brought a wood fire oven from Milan, Italy to make, like his mother, fresh homemade bread and pizzas. Moreover, Frugatti's Restaurant offers you not only the very best in Southern Italian cooking, even importing the finest ingredients for authentic Italian food, including a fitness menu. After all, Ralph has represented the United States and Italy, competing in the Master Championship Games. He knows all the right food for good fitness, so check out the menu. After today's broadcast, run over to Frugatti's Italian Restaurant and Catering at 600 Coffee Road here in Bakersfield. And after a Friday, Saturday, or Sunday service, stop into Frugatti's for a great lunch. And for dinner, there is live music every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I'll see you there, and tell Mr. Ralph Frugaletti that Denice sent you. Salute. Bon appetito.
President Trump has correctly stated that economic security is national security. And in the Tehachapi Mountains of Kern County resides a United States defense contractor, Denice Products. Here is the Silicon Valley of the aerospace industry, right here in East Kern. Denice Products is a forward-leaning manufacturer and distributor of hardware sold to major defense and aerospace companies. We're talking about Boeing, Lockheed Martin, United Technologies, Northrop Grumman, Raytheon General Electric, and on and on the list goes, as well as to every United States ally worldwide, including Israel, America's most important strategic ally in the Middle East. And for everything that flies, Anatase Products is providing the parts. And with me today is the president of Anatase Products, Scott Baker. Hi, Scott.
How you doing?
You believe this corner of Kern County is the hub of the aerospace industry.
Well, this portion of Southern California here, out in the Antelope Valley, it contains some of the most cutting edge technology going on in aviation today. We have some of the UCAS programs with unmanned technologies going on. We have Edwards Air Force Base out here who's doing continual testing in their area. We have the Naval Weapons Station up there at China Lake doing some fantastic cutting edge stuff, cruise missile technology, and those things are going on. We have Scale Composites locally doing a lot of composite technology, which is new. We have SpaceX, which is a private one private entity putting things into space now. This area is the growth center for aviation's future, and this is the area I think that as a nation we need to be concentrating some of our effort and taking this technology. And as we all know, with the space program from Apollo years ago, out of these technologies, we the private sector are going to reap some of the benefits of that.
Thank you, Scott. Ladies and gentlemen, Scott Baker, president of Anatase Products. Anatase Products, located in the beautiful mountains of Tehachapi, California, in eastern Kern County, is home to some of the most innovative and specialized technologies in the world, including those at the U.S. Naval Air Warfare Center, Weapons Division at China Lake, Edwards Air Force Base, as well as Strata Launch, launching satellites capable of delivering multiple orbits in a single flight to space. And it is Anatase Products that has provided the manufactured devices, and the president, Scott Baker of Anatase Products, Marine Corps veteran, reactivated on 9/11 to monitor threats to the homeland, is carrying on a tradition of providing for the security of the United States by manufacturing every kind of fastener on anything that flies, as well as providing a full testing destructive laboratory. Contact Anatase Products, now in business for 30 years, at 661-822-6873. Located at 1314 Goodrich Drive in Tehachapi for your manufacturing and testing needs today.